And again, thank you everybody for coming in today. In a little bit, I think when we've done this in the past, we did ask students to turn on their videos to kind of show themselves. I just want to let you know that if you do, you are being recorded and you'll be on YouTube. So just to kind of keep that in mind. But other than that, we're just going to go ahead and get started. We're going to start with a little bit of introductions. You saw some of the slideshows that were happening at the very beginning. Those are some of our student profiles on campus. We're always very happy to share some of those. But I'm going to start off with, well, Uncle Jeff is here, so I'll have Uncle Jeff kind of wave hi. I am going to go ahead and ask Coach Buck to go ahead and start this off for us. Tell us who you are and why are you coach to me?
All right, thank you, Gina, and thank you, Jeff, and welcome to everybody, and thank you for taking the time tonight or late this afternoon for those of you out in Hawaii. For spending some time with us to talk a little bit about our athletic department and the programs that we have in Pacific Athletics. And this is meant to be as interactive as you wish it to be. I do not have a presentation that I'm going to be providing around the athletic department, but really here to answer your questions and offer a little bit of information about what our department is and what our culture is in the athletic department. I have been at Pacific since the summer of 2009, so just over 12 years at Pacific. I was initially hired, Uncle Jeff was part of the search committee, was hired to restart the football program at Pacific. It had been off campus for about 20 years, and I came from UC Davis down in California, where I had been coaching and was hired to start the football program from scratch, and brought in about 100 freshmen that first year. Really got our teeth kicked in pretty good as we were starting the program, but ultimately in year 5 put a championship trophy in the building. I ended up coaching 10 seasons in football, and our athletic director at that time announced his retirement. And I took that opportunity to take what I had done and accomplished with the football program and wanted to take that to the entire department and really start building a level of success in athletics that I'm really excited about the future and where we're headed. So I've been kind of running the day-to-day operations of the department since December of 2019. So I had about 8 weeks as a normal athletic director before the pandemic hit, and really almost the last 2 years now have really been surviving the day and making sure that we were providing the best experience for our student athletes that we could in the department. And some of that was merely in the height of it, offering opportunities to get together to practice as we weren't competing, working to get us back to competition, and ultimately to this year where we are in full schedules, open venues to spectators, and really excited about kind of what the fall has looked like and the success level that we've had thus far in the fall. I'm really excited for the winter sports that are just starting now, and we'll ultimately get back outside in the spring with all of those sports. So in general, our athletic department, we sponsor 24 varsity sports. We are one of 2, I apologize, that's my pup, with my daughter making her way home from soccer practice. So he will quiet down here in just a second. But we have 24 varsity sports, about 600 student athletes at any given time, and ultimately about a third of the student body is varsity athlete at Pacific. And so what does that mean? That means that in any given class academically, just about every other seat is a fellow student athlete going through the same experience that you are, have that support mechanism both in the classroom, out of the classroom, in the dining hall, the residence halls, all of those. There's just a tremendous community of student athletes that are here to support each other and cheer for each other and get excited when we have our successes in competitions. So that's probably the generalities of all of it. I will say we're really excited. We had a conference champ in cross country this fall, which is really excited. The cross country team will head down to the NCAA regionals next week. So really excited for them. And then we're finishing up our fall sports with volleyball and the 2 soccer teams finishing up this weekend, and football having one more final weekend on the 13th. And then we turn our focus to our winter sports of basketball, swimming, and wrestling before getting into those spring sports. So again, welcome. Please do not hesitate to ask any and all questions about our programs, and I'll be sure to answer them as best as I can.
Thank you. We'll put you in the hot seat in a little bit. To continue my nicknames for everybody, Uncle Jeff. Why are you Uncle Jeff? And what are you doing here?
I don't know what I'm doing here. No, I'm just kidding. It's great to have everyone here, and it's an honor to be here with Gina and Coach Buckley, sharing information with you guys. I'm Uncle Jeff because I'm originally from Hawaii. For those of you folks that are from Hawaii, I grew up in a community on the west side called Waianae. So I am a sea rider. I know I don't look like a sea rider, but I am a sea rider, a very proud one. And I'm a boxer also. So for the last 35 years, I was the counselor for all of the students from Hawaii. And if you're not from the islands, then my friends, and that's part of our culture. So lots of folks do call me Uncle Jeff, I think because they like me, or maybe it's kind of respect, but probably because of age. But it's really great to be here. And I work in the admissions office, and my role in the office is to work with all of my colleagues. So whether you're counselor, if I'm your counselor, or whoever's counselor, and all of our coaches and Coach Buckley and his staff in all athletic recruiting. I'm a retired coach. I coached here for 24 years in 3 different sports: football, baseball, and men's soccer. And so it's really an honor to be here and hopefully answer your questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I know we had a couple people trickle in a little bit later, just a kind reminder that this is recording and we will be posting this on YouTube. And we're going to hop right to it. We did ask everybody if you wanted to turn on your videos and just kind of show your faces. Feel free to go ahead and do that at this time. It's always so great to see, put a face to a name, and we're going to be seeing some of these names all year long. So we're very excited. We're going to go ahead and hop right to it. We did have a couple of questions, but I'm thinking I might ease you guys into this a little bit. How does admissions and athletics play together during the whole college application process? Right now it is November. I thought it was September for a second. We're completely off. November 4th, application, our first early application deadline already passed, and now parents are and students are wondering what to do next. They're interested in playing in sport and maybe they haven't reached out to a coach. How does athletics and admissions kind of marry each other here? I'll hand it off to either one of you guys.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, we partner tremendously with the admissions office. So very rarely are there circumstances where a coach knows about an individual, but admissions doesn't, or vice versa, where admissions knows about an individual interested in athletics and the coach doesn't. I think it is important to note in this process that we have a varied roster across our programs, and there are some programs that are very open, meaning that there are open roster spots for virtually anybody with experience to take a shot at playing Division III athletics. There are also rosters that are very fixed and have a finite number of roster spots available, and those tend to be a little bit more coach recruitment focused. That does not mean right now, if you haven't been in touch with a coach, that you're not recruitable by any stretch. It just means that you do need to be proactive and reach out to those coaches to express your interest, so that they can start the process from an evaluation standpoint, that they can call your coach, either your high school coach or club coach, and start to get to know you a little bit more as a prospect, both for the school and for our athletic programs. So kind of on a sport by sport basis. And I was really excited when you sent me the list, Gina, tonight, just looking at the number of different sports that are represented in the folks that are here tonight, the different locations. I think I had it at 7 or 8 different states that we had tonight. And I think that's very indicative of what our department is. We traditionally have 9 or 10 different states represented across our programs. And like I said, we're a large department with 24 varsity sports. So we love athletes from every walk. But it is really important in this process that you work in parallel with the coach in the program and the admissions counselor to make sure that everything is being attended to get you admitted, to get you a financial aid package, but then also have those open and honest conversations about the roster capabilities and our desire to have you join our athletic programs. Really the most open rosters that we have right now, and I'll just kind of run fall to spring with that. Football tends to be a very open roster, and cross country can be a very open roster as well. Soccer and volleyball, a little bit more fixed roster spots. I will say volleyball does have a JV program as well, so there's a little bit more opportunity in there, but soccer tends to carry 28 or so individuals on their rosters, and so that gets to be a little bit more pointed in the recruiting process. So if you're a soccer player, making sure that you're getting a hold of those coaches to get evaluated. Getting into the winter sports, swimming is very open in terms of its roster potential. Wrestling is incredibly open at this moment for its roster, and we're really excited about kind of reinvigorating our wrestling program moving forward. And again, basketball, varsity basketball is a little bit more fixed, but we do have JV men's and women's basketball as well. So there's some additional opportunities there. Get into the spring sports, track, very, very open. Lacrosse is open. Baseball and softball, again, are 2 other sports that have JV programs as part of it as well. So there's some additional opportunities to get bats or innings pitched if you're a baseball or softball player. Lacrosse right now is fairly open in terms of the numbers they can take on. And then we get into golf and tennis and some of those smaller roster sports that really are fixed rosters in terms of the availability. Rowing is an additional one that has a fairly open roster at this point. So again, just to reiterate, it really is imperative that you get in contact with the coaches. It's very easy to find their contact information on goboxers.com, which is our athletic website, and just make sure that you express your interest beyond just expressing that to the admissions counselor. Now, the admissions counselor gets us that information, but I think coaches really do appreciate the proactive nature of a prospect to introduce themselves to the program.
Thank you. And Uncle, how does admissions play into this part?
Well, there's a number of different ways that Coach kind of hit the nail on the head, though, actually. But we're in instances, for example, I was visiting a high school in person, which was really great the other day. And a super young man, a student athlete, a great student, was talking to me about 2 sports that he was interested in playing, hadn't reached out to the coaches yet. And so we had a great discussion. It happens to be my school, and I went back and immediately talked with both head coaches and told them about this person. Nice 4-point plus GPA. I like that, always, right? But we work together in all things. So it might be a situation at a college fair that a counselor might meet somebody who's really, really enthusiastic, and we're going to encourage them, as Coach Buckley just pointed out, to reach out to the coaches. And in a lot of cases, we can just write down the coach's email and give it to that student, that prospective student athlete. When a student applies, what we like to do as well is, for example, when a student is accepted, if they're involved in athletics or we can have the student that's involved in a sport and another extracurricular like theater or music or something like that. So what we like to do is we all call our students personally to congratulate them on their acceptance and tell them what their merit scholarship is. But we also send a congratulations email, and we also notify the coach or the folks in music or theater, hey, you know, Kayleen was just admitted, so wanted you to know, and she got this scholarship. And so they can be really, really excited about you being accepted. Then they know, okay, you're in, and they can continue that discussion. So we really work hand in hand together. It's not only on that, but it's on coming to participate in the Senior Preview Scholarship Day, whether that's virtual or in person, encouraging the student athletes to come along with the coaches. It could be, you know, making sure that we're getting your FAFSA data, making sure you're filing your FAFSA, so that when it's time to put together the financial aid award, we're all on the same page and nobody's saying like, well, I didn't know about that, right? So we try and be really, really proactive in helping you and guide you every step of the way. But again, as Coach said, and I've got to reiterate, as a old coach and in that business for a long time, it's really important that you're in touch with those coaches so they know that you really want to participate.
Absolutely, thank you. And this is great. I'm already getting a couple of questions coming in through the private chat, and which I appreciate. I am going to go ahead and start off with a couple of questions that came in through the registration form first. And that first one is, what is a clearinghouse?
Yes, and so the NCAA does have a clearinghouse process, and as a Division III institution, we do not have to participate in the clearinghouse process. So if you're thinking about participating in Division II, Division I athletics, then you do need to potentially register with the NCAA clearinghouse. But what we do need is for you to register to get an NCAA ID. And so that is, let me just do this real quick. Hopefully everybody can see this. So at ncaa.org, there's an eligibility center on there, and we can send this, and coaches will send this link out to you. But Division I or Division II, you got to be certified by the NCAA. If you're Division III or undecided at this point, the place to start is just here in creating a profile, and that'll get you your NCAA ID, which we need then to submit when you add to our rosters and start going through the eligibility process when you arrive on campus. So it's a very simple thing. The creating a profile is free. You can do that now. You don't have to wait until you know which college you're going to, but you can get that done and move into getting registered. What will then occur as well, you'll start to get some information from the NCAA just through email on steps to take to prepare yourself for the process.
Thank you. The next question that came in here, this is a good question that we get every year. Since there are no athletic scholarships, what are some benefits that athletes receive at Pacific University?
Yeah, the primary component to NCAA Division III versus Division II or Division I is the lack of athletic-based scholarships. What's important to note in that process is a lot of times our institutional aid that all students qualify for, so the merit-based scholarships and then any need-based financial aid that you qualify for, actually at times exceeds a Division II athletic grant and aid. So do not in any shape or form be put off by the fact that we're not an athletic scholarship institution, because the institution as a whole does a tremendous job helping to subsidize those costs that are associated with tuition and room and board and all those things. So you need to go through the process. You got to make sure that you file the FAFSA and get everything that you can from a financial aid package from us to make those decisions when the time is appropriate. But in terms of how we operate, there is not a ton of difference from the various levels when you get into the day-to-day operations as a student athlete. We provide uniforms, we provide practice gear and apparel, we provide team travel to competitions. There's not costs associated with any of that. We have 5 full-time athletic trainers, so you are fully taken care of from a medical standpoint. We have a team orthopedic surgeon, a team general practitioner, team chiropractor, team physical therapist. We are incredibly well taken care of, much like you are at any level from a medical perspective. We have tutoring. We have all kinds of things that you traditionally hear about student athletes being able to take part in as part of their athletic experience. So our fall sports arrive before everybody else. There is no cost associated to the students for that. The athletic department covers their food and housing while they're in their what we call fall camp. So there is quite a bit that is taken care of by the athletic department and the individual programs when you're a student athlete. There always are some costs associated that aren't. We don't provide every athlete with cleats per se, or some of those things. That there are pieces that individuals will tend to have to buy, but for the vast majority of it, we supply everything.
Awesome, thank you.
That too, Gina, let me add to that a little bit. In a top flight academic education, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, we are one of the top 8 research universities in the Western United States. And that's across the board. And I must say, and I'm biased, but we have fantastic athletic facilities here at Pacific. And if you haven't seen it, you got to come see it because the facilities are amazing.
Awesome. And I'm pulling up a video of Solar Athletic Center. I know we got some videos done during the pandemic, so we'll go ahead and share that video in a little bit so you guys can actually see the facilities. Coach Buck, you touched a little bit about scholarships through the merit scholarship being a larger portion, and most of the time being larger than some of those D2 scholarships. Uncle, could you touch base a little bit on what those merit scholarships are and how do the students get a merit scholarship?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, every single student, if you are accepted to Pacific, you will receive a merit scholarship. Every single student will receive a merit scholarship. We have 10 different markers that we look at when we admit a student, when we're evaluating a student's application, and also the financial aid, the merit scholarship. So GPA is part of it. How many honors, AP, challenging classes, IB classes, et cetera, did the student take during their tenure in high school up through the end of the junior year? Got to have one letter of recommendation, an academic letter of recommendation. And your essay is important. It's really important. And your admissions counselors would be more than happy, guys, to read your essay prior to even put it in your application and submitting it. So an essay comes into play. Have you, or did you, or will you be able to take an SAT or an ACT test score? So where did you score? And by the way, we are test optional. So I can tell you this, in all honesty, guys, taking an SAT or an ACT cannot hurt you. It cannot hurt you. It can only help you, okay? Does your school weight the GPA or do they not weight the GPA? So there's a number of factors that we look at. And for example, a student with a 3.0, and that's our minimum, typically 3.0 cumulative GPA. If you have a good letter of recommendation and you write good essays, solid essays, you get $15,000 a year for 4 years, depending on the classes. So our scholarships actually begin at $15,000. That's what we call university scholarship. The next level up is trustees at $18,000. The President's Merit Scholarship is $21,000. The Honor Scholarship is $24,000. And our top academic scholarship is $27,000 a year. So they go all the way from $60,000 over 4 years to $108,000 over 4 years. And a little bit earlier, I'd mentioned Senior Preview Scholarship Day. Real important day. Whether you're here and you can be here in person or you're going to do it by Zoom. When you attend a Senior Preview Scholarship Day, we're actually going to award you a $4,000 scholarship. So you get $1,000 a year for 4 years by visiting us. Now, I don't know anybody else is doing that, but I'll tell you, my friends, that's the easiest $4,000 you're ever going to get legally, right? So think about this. If you're an honor scholar at $24,000, right? And you come to Senior Preview Day, before we ever get to financial aid, you've got a nice round $100,000 in scholarship from Pacific. Then we have a whole bunch of different scholarships that we offer that we all notify our students about that you can apply for, that we stack the scholarships up on top of each other, right? And then of course, you should be applying for outside scholarships at home, wherever you're located. You should be applying for those outside scholarships because we take all the outside scholarships, and that's a good thing for you. That's going to help you down the line. So we work hand in hand with our coaches, and we want you to get the best financial aid package possible. Trust me on that.
Thank you. And your counselors will go to bat for you when you get your financial aid letter and it doesn't look quite right or looks a little too high. Always refer back to your admissions counselor, and we'll do our best to talk you through it and maybe see what we can do for you. So one of the questions that came in today is that I talked to the coach already, but I'm not sure how much of an evaluation has been done. Is that something that they need to proactively reach out to the coach again on, or is it best to wait until the coach reaches out to them? Is there a specific process for those who have already reached out and maybe not have heard back yet?
Yeah, I think, some of that is you'll never be in the wrong communicating with the coach. So checking in with the coach is always welcome and important. It depends on where they're at in the term of their calendar in terms of how heavy they are into recruiting at this point. The fall sports are, finishing up their season. So they're probably less fully invested in evaluating everything at this moment, but here in the next couple of weeks, they'll get themselves back to it. Winter sports are just starting to ramp up. I think our basketball team bust out today. They're heading out for a tournament. So, it just kind of over time comes back and forth as to where coaches are at in the process. But if you've been in contact and, a little bit of time has gone by, don't hesitate to reach back out to them. I think you're showing your desire to compete at the collegiate level is important for them to see and hear. So I always appreciate it as a coach when somebody checked in with me just to relay additional information or to check in. And, if you're going to plan to go to the senior preview day, even virtually, let the coach know. They take that interest to heart as they're looking at building their classes.
Awesome, thank you. And the next question that came in is, after admissions and contacting coaches, when do student athletes have to make their decision to play at Pacific?
Well, again, it goes back a little bit to the roster piece. So it's a little bit different sport by sport. Some of those fixed roster, smaller roster sports, as we get into the process, a coach may come and ask for a commitment for the spot that's there. Because if not, then they got to move on to, another individual that they're trying to fill that roster spot. If you're one of those more open roster programs, you got a little bit more time and flexibility to really kind of figure out what it is and where you want to go. But typically, traditionally over time, we know the vast majority of our class by May 1st athletically of each year. So there's a little bit of time. We are completely understanding and appreciative of the financial aid process. That getting admissions done, getting financial aid packages rolled out is often a major component to the process for individuals. So, typically, I think if I'm correct, early to mid-February, we're trying to get financial aid packages out. So shortly after that time, you can probably expect some coaches to be reaching out to really start gauging interest in where that process is going to take an individual.
Awesome, thank you. And Uncle, what is May 1st?
Not my birthday, that's for sure. May 1st is a deadline that it's not a hard and fast deadline. It's something we encourage students to try and make a decision by the 1st of May. But we are literally working all the way just about until school starts. So college and universities, what they try and do is they try and get an idea of what their entering class is going to look like so that they can begin to establish the budget for the coming year. And so when you make a commitment, if you say, okay, I'm going to be a boxer, and you submit your enrollment deposit, that's what we call it, the enrollment deposit, that tells us you're coming. That tells us you're coming. That tells the coaches you're coming. And so we begin planning accordingly to make sure that we're doing everything we can to welcome you into the boxer family, the Boxer Ohana, all across the board, whether that's housing, that's registration, it's everything. And one thing that we really strongly want to let everybody know is that we don't double deposit. We don't just say, well, I'm going to deposit over here and I'm going to deposit at Pacific, because that then throws everybody off. It throws the other institution off, and we're not really well prepared to support you in all that we're doing. So we hope that you'll be able to make a decision by then. And again, with regards to financial aid, it's really important that you work with your your admissions counselor to make sure you understand what the financial aid package looks like and what it actually means, what the actual cost of attending the university is for you and your family, because it's going to be different for each person and your own circumstance. So we want to make sure that we explain everything in great detail so you have really clear understanding of what the cost is going to be, and not just, I'm guessing at something, okay? I hope that helps.
It does. Thank you so much. And this next question is a great question for dual sport athletes. Is it possible to do more than one sport? I've been looking into rowing as well, but I'm not sure if the seasons will conflict, and this student is a swimmer. So the swimming and row, does that conflict, or I guess dual sports in general?
Yeah, so that is really a case-by-case basis and sport by sport, right? You couldn't be a soccer player and a football player because they're both the same season. You could be a football player and a track athlete because they're fall and spring. So we are completely open to multi-sport athletes. And funny enough, rowing is a split season sport. So they have a short fall season and a spring season, and swimming sits smack dab in the middle of those two seasons. So it absolutely could occur. And both coaches and programs are supportive of that. So yeah, it is doable. It can be challenging if you're a winter sport athlete at times. Trying to be a football, basketball player is a little hard because there's about a month overlap in those programs. Basketball into spring sports can be a little challenging because you end up missing about the first month of the spring season. But we've done it. We had a basketball player who was all conference, turn around and win the high jump in conference, just kind of rolling out after basketball season and kind of working towards a conference championship meet versus the early meets. So it's been successful previously, and we're happy to try and accommodate that on a sport by sport basis.
Awesome. That just kind of fell into place. Row, swim, row. Additionally, please go ahead and continue adding in your questions in the chat box. We don't have too many right now, so while we are waiting for some of those questions to pop in, I'm going to go ahead and play a video of our athletic facilities. I'm going to step away from this screen here, so I apologize if questions start coming in. We'll go ahead and get back to it as soon as this video is over. It's only about a couple minutes, so we'll go ahead and share this video with you guys, and then we'll continue on with the session.
You can do the voiceover there, Coachy.
All right, that's our fitness center, which is open to all students, and it is open 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. So plenty of time to take advantage of those opportunities. We do have a different weight room for athletics as well. This is our gym. We just redid the surface this past summer, and very excited to upgrade that. This field house is a very unique indoor field turf. Nobody else at our level in the West has an indoor field turf facility that all of our sports use: soccer, football, baseball, softball. There's a batting cage on top of that, up by the boxer head there, and just below that is this box team training facility, which is racks, platforms, really kind of built around the Olympic lifts in there. So that field house is a huge advantage for us over our peers in the West. We don't ever get rained out in baseball, softball, and provides indoor training opportunities for all of our student athletes. Huge benefit to us. Hanson Stadium is our football, soccer, and lacrosse stadium, along with track, and just replaced the field turf right before the pandemic. So it's a great facility. We do bring in additional seating on that opposite side during football season, as well as seating in the end zones during our football season. So full HD scoreboard in the stadium that was graciously donated. We do have a turf infield for baseball as well. So this is a field turf surface. Again, really helps us stay out there with inclement weather. This picture here of our softball stadium does not include the project we just finished, which was field turfing the outfield of the softball facility as well. So in my time at Pacific, we have spent millions of dollars over the last 12 years upgrading and updating our facilities. And there is not a plan to stop that by any means. We are constantly looking at projects. Just finished this softball turfing, and now we're kind of moving ourselves into the next phases of what we need to do to provide an even better experience to our student athletes. And I think it's at this point really important to note that at the Division III level, there are institutions that value the student athlete experience different than other institutions, and some make it a very extracurricular focus and don't really invest in athletics. Pacific is a place that values student athletes and that experience. So we are incredibly well supported by the president's office, by the board of trustees, by our alumni. We just a couple weeks ago had a very successful 2-day fundraising campaign. We raised $120,000 for our athletic programs to help subsidize apparel upgrades, uniform upgrades, all those kind of things. So just a tremendous support mechanism from our alumni, our parents, and those that just value and believe in what student athlete experience means to the overall collegiate experience. So it's a big part of who we are, and we're proud to represent the institution in that.
Awesome, thank you. So I did add in the chat box, so if you guys want to go ahead and chat out whatever sport you guys play, it's good to kind of see where everyone else is coming from. Go ahead and stick it in the chat box, or you can turn on your video and tell us what sport you have. Looks like we got wrestling here that's coming in direct message. It's awesome. I know we have a lot of wrestlers here. Wrestling again, track, that's great. This is good to see so many varieties here. Swim,
yeah, and both, just to jump in real quick, wrestling and track have newer coaches in the department. Ryan Hunter Sims is our new head track coach. He's been an assistant with us for a number of years. He is a former University of Oregon thrower, so has a Division I background, has been tremendously successful as an assistant coach with us. We have a national champion a couple years ago in the javelin, and really excited for him to take over that track program. Cross country, same thing. Bailey Kofer is a first-year head coach this year. She's been an assistant with us for a number of years. we had a turnover, and what we ended up doing in track was splitting the head job. So prior to this, it was the head cross country and track coach. And what we did is we took those two assistants because they were so successful and ready for their opportunities to lead programs, is created a head cross country coach and a separate head track coach. They still work very closely together, but we are really excited about the growth and direction of our track and cross country programs. Wrestling, Zach Binkard is an alum, was a wrestler at Pacific in the earlier 2000s, and is really working to bring back a sense of pride in that program, and is just really excited about where he's going. We do sponsor both men's and women's wrestling, so we're getting that program back to where it belongs, and have really invested some time and effort into that. And it's awesome to see these wrestlers that are on here tonight, because you really can be the future of what Pacific Wrestling is going to be moving forward. So I see volleyball in there. Coach Kip has been here a long time. Got here shortly after I got here. He's one of the elder statesmen in the department. Was really playing great volleyball last year. Unfortunately, with the COVID kind of shutdown, the team was built to make a championship run last year. They had built a tremendous senior class, and just kind of got cut off at the knees with not being able to play the full season last year. Still very competitive. He's a great coach, former Division I background. He was at UC Davis when I was down there at UC Davis, so there's a connection there. So really excited. And our swim program, Beth Whittle is 3 years in as our swim coach. She is awesome. She was an all-conference swimmer in the Northwest Conference as an undergrad, and came back to us from a school in the Midwest, and is really growing that program. We had a meet last Friday where we had one of our best early finishes on the women's side that we've had in recent memory. So a lot of real positive things building in the athletic department.
Absolutely. You're mentioning all these names. I'm like, yeah, I love working with all of the coaches. I don't think I've had a coach that I didn't. One question that is coming in right now is a great question as a D3 school. Student athletes, what we hear all the time. How flexible and supportive are professors with student athletes to work around conflicting with race and class schedules? How does that all kind of balance out?
Yeah, the class schedule is built as such that we don't have a ton of conflicts. A lot of our practices are in the evenings or mornings that are outside of those traditional class times, really 9 to 3-ish, when most individuals are taking their classes. But the biggest question we get around kind of working with faculty is with travel, and when we're leaving town to go to competitions. Some schools can make it pretty difficult. Pacific is really accommodating to that. I have proctored midterms on a bus ride because the professor wanted to make sure that everybody was taking the test at the same time. Proctored quizzes at the airport. I actually took a professor on a road trip with me just so that they could see exactly what type of business trip we were going on, that it wasn't a vacation away from class and just traveling for fun. But the professors are incredibly supportive. They are in the stands at competitions. They know whether we win or lose. When you walk into class on Monday, they know what the weekend scores were. And I think that's in part because there's such a large percentage of student athletes in those classes. We do have a faculty athletic rep. And so he is an NCAA appointed kind of position within the athletic department that allows us to openly communicate with the faculty so that there's transparency for what the student athletes' needs are and how the faculty can best help support that as part of the overall collegiate experience. Each team a lot of times we'll kind of identify a professor who has an affinity for one sport or another. And then there's some that just show up to all of them. Laura McNally in the business office. I think I've seen her at almost every soccer and volleyball game this fall. And, you know, Jim Moore from political science is at almost every women's basketball game during the course of the year. So it's a lot of fun to get to know the professors. It's awesome for the student athletes to build a relationship with them outside of class. You know, they are not at a point that they think that they are the center of the world, and want you to give up everything else just to be an academic. But at the same time, they are very demanding. They do not allow student athletes to slack off because they're student athletes. They don't give them the pass. It's all earned, but it's earned in partnership with each other to provide the best student experience. And that, you know, to be honest, I know this is an athletic event tonight, but that's the same thing for orchestra. That's the same thing for theater. It's the same thing for any of those extracurricular activities that our faculty understand are part of the student experience while you're away at college. You're growing as an academic entity. You're growing as a social entity. And for those that are on here, you're growing as an athletic entity too. And everybody appreciates all the pieces that come together to make a really successful experience while you're here.
Coach Buck, you're going to love this story. Our former colleague, Xavier Harvey, was also a football player all 4 years, and he came and worked in our admissions office for a couple of years. The story that he would tell a lot of his recruits was, your professors will know when you are not in the classroom. He and a couple of his football buddies, Coach Buck, skipped class one day because they were just really tired, and the professor saw him from across campus and knew he should have been in the classroom. And she's, you know, a little bit shorter, had no issues calling him across campus and kind of reprimanding him, while his 4 other buddies, who are also huge football players, just kind of slunk away because they knew they were all in trouble. So your professors are there to take care of you. Uncle, can you give students a couple of advice from that transition? A lot of students do struggle from the high school student athlete to the collegiate level, and kind of there is a huge difference from, you know, doing homework assignments versus, staying on top of the reading that you need to do. What are some of the advice that you've given to students in the years past to be a successful student athlete on campus?
Yeah, I was guilty of this myself when I first came to Pacific. My best friend had said, you know, this is not like high school, and they're going to expect a lot from you. And I was like, yeah, right. What was your GPA? What was my GPA? We have to make an adjustment in our study habits. And so you can't study the same way you did in high school. And there's a lot more demand in terms of raising your game. You all understand this, raising your game athletically, obviously, but raising our game academically. And so we have to make adjustments to our amount of time. I think every freshman's biggest challenge is time management. It's not that you're not capable of doing the work. Of course you are. You get accepted here, you're capable of doing all the work, right? It's your management of your time. And so balancing when I'm in class, when I'm out of class, when I'm studying, when I'm spending time with family on Zoom or whatever it might be, and when I'm putting my efforts into athletics. And the athletic department and the teams, guys, you've got plenty of time to do your studies, plenty of time. In fact, when I work with students, I ask them to make me a day planner for an entire week. What is your class schedule, when your practice schedule, when your study schedule, when you're eating, when you're hanging out, etc. So that they have a real good idea of what it's going to take to be successful. We get an idea that we're in class. Wow, I've got 2, maybe 3 classes, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I got 1 class, Tuesday, Thursday, that's it. I got all this free time. And so we have to understand to utilize our time in a good positive fashion. You need time to relax, of course, but it's about balancing that out. And part of the classes that you'll take, first year seminar, is designed also to help you do that. And then there's free tutoring here. And the thing that I always tell my students is, listen, if there's any issue in class and you're struggling in class, the very first person you go see is that professor. Because the bottom line, my friends, is the faculty are here for you. They're here to help you reach your dreams and goals, right? And that's the bottom line.
Awesome. And we're winding down on questions and time. I'm going to go ahead and ask one question that pops up every year. What happens if there's an injury and they are no longer able to play, or if they need to get medical attention? What kind of services are we able to support and offer our students?
Yeah, so we have 5 full-time athletic trainers in the department. So training room is open typically early morning for practices, and then usually about 1 to 9 p.m. At night. And then the trainers are often at practices and competitions as well. So very well taken care of, both from a injury evaluation, treatment, but then also rehab. We have both a training room and a rehab room in the building that individuals are using. So there's short-term injury, and then there's longer-term injury that sometimes does occur. And that's where we partner with our team physicians to make sure that you're getting the best treatment that you can. And sometimes, yes, that does ultimately end up in surgery. But Dr. Butler, who's our team orthopedic surgeon, is part of the best orthopedic clinic in the Portland metro area. And they take unbelievable care of our student athletes who have to go down that path. At our level, we use primary insurance first. So the insurance that you come to school with, mom and dad's insurance, is the primary that we use. And then we have an athletic department secondary insurance. So if an individual gets hurt playing sport, there will be no out-of-pocket cost to a family. So if your current plan covers 80% of services, our athletic department policy covers the additional 20%. So that is a great benefit of coverage in the process. And that coverage goes from, like I said, evaluation all the way through rehab. In rare cases, if somebody cannot make it back and cannot play again, they're still covered, they're still taken care of, and they're still welcome as part of their programs. And we end up having student assistants. We end up having, kind of student coaches that continue to get the most out of the experience in any way that they can. And that's just kind of the process that we want to be a part of here. I think you hear at times, once you're a boxer, you're always a boxer, and that's really important to us.
Absolutely. We actually have a basketball player who came in as a basketball player, wasn't able to kind of continue playing, but he still works very closely with the team every morning, has one-on-one sessions with the athletes to help them with workouts and stuff. So he's very much involved, but he himself is no longer his clinic. So that is absolutely true what Coach Buck said. A quick follow-up to that question. What about high school injuries? So post-surgery limitations, how do we navigate some of those injuries?
Yeah, so there's a clearance process that everybody goes through prior to starting practices. So over the summer, you'll get sent a medical history request that we'll get. And if somebody has a recent surgery, a recent significant injury, we ask for all the documentation from the doctor. And so we have all those notes in, we get them to our team physicians and come up with a plan for somebody's arrival on campus, and whether they go immediately into kind of the rehab space or whether we can clear them for participation is a case-by-case basis. But we work very closely with each of those individuals, and that clearance process requires a physical prior to arrival. But we also, and we haven't said this, we are a tremendous health professions institution and have 14 graduate programs, I think, in the health profession. So on check-in day, we have the optometry school at student athlete check-in doing vision checks. And anybody that has a warning flag pop up in that, we get them assigned an appointment at the optometry school for that week. We have a tremendous graduate school of psychology and partner with the counseling center on campus. And we do mental health checks on check-in. So we're not just checking if your muscles are fine and you're cleared to play, but we really do kind of do everything possible to make sure that our student athletes are taken care of in the best manner.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now.